Imagine reading a story written before the pyramids were ancient. A story copied generation after generation by people who believed its final pages should never be forgotten. Not because of a battle, not because of a king, but because of something hidden between the lines. A detail so easy to overlook that most people never stop to ask why it was there at all. Tonight, that's exactly where we're going. The story does not begin with a search for magic or a quest for the gods. It begins with a cold body. Enkidu is dead. For the first time, Gilgamesh, the king who ruled Uruk with absolute authority, is powerless. His companion, the only one who truly understood his strength, has been taken by a sudden, fatal fever. The surviving cuneiform tablets, written thousands of years ago, do not treat mortality as an abstract philosophy. They record a raw, terrifying grief. Gilgamesh refuses to let his friend be buried, weeping and circling the body like an eagle, waiting for a breath that never comes. But the silence is absolute. As the days pass, the king faces a horrifying truth. If Enkidu can die, then Gilgamesh can die too. The massive walls of Uruk, once his ultimate pride, now offer no protection. The city feels cold and distant. In this moment of complete isolation, the king sheds his royal robes. He clothes himself in coarse animal skins and steps out into the vast, unknown wilderness. A ruler has become a wanderer, driven not by a desire for empire, but by a single, desperate question. How can a man escape the grave? For the former king, grief is not a state of mind. It is a rebellion. The surviving cuneiform texts record that Gilgamesh refuses to accept the boundary of the grave. He cannot simply mourn his companion and return to his throne. Instead, his sorrow transforms into an active, desperate refusal. If the gods can strike down Enkidu, a man of unmatched strength, then no mortal is safe. This is not the beginning of a grand, heroic adventure. It is a flight born of absolute terror. Gilgamesh leaves the civilization he built, wandering through the scorched wilderness in coarse animal skins. He is no longer seeking conquests, tribute, or territory. He seeks a single, legendary figure, Utnapishtim, the only mortal ever granted eternal life by the assembly of the gods. Utnapishtim lives at the edge of the world, past the path of the sun. To find him, the king must cross the limits of the known earth, braving beasts and mountain passes that no living man has ever survived. His path is defined by a single, desperate question: can the decree of death be undone? According to the surviving text of Tablet 11, the man at the end of the world is Utnapishtim. He is not a god. He was once a mortal ruler, but he alone passed through the Great Deluge and survived. The cuneiform tablets do not present the destruction of the ancient world as a mere historical backdrop. Instead, the flood is the very event that grants Utnapishtim his authority. In the Mesopotamian universe, life and death are not natural accidents. They are decisions. The gods hold absolute dominion over the breath of humanity. To survive when an entire world drowned required a direct bypass of this divine order. This makes Utnapishtim a gatekeeper. He is the guardian of a hidden secret, a mystery preserved only in the memory of one who lived through the end of the earth. For Gilgamesh, this figure is the ultimate authority. Utnapishtim knows what lies beyond the grave because he has already crossed that threshold. His knowledge is not a theory, it is lived experience. But the ancient text reveals a sobering truth. Eternal life was not earned by human heroics or strength. It was a singular, unrepeatable gift from the assembly of the gods. Utnapishtim looks at the exhausted king of Uruk, clad in wild animal skins, and presents a harsh reality. The path to immortality is closed. Yet, just as the king prepares to return empty-handed, the old man offers a hidden truth, a final gesture of pity for a ruler who has traveled past the edge of the world. The ancient survivor looks upon the exhausted king and shares a secret kept hidden by the gods. According to the surviving tablet, this is not a promise of easy magic, but an invitation to an impossible trial. Utnapishtim reveals that far beneath the primeval ocean, hidden in the black abyss, lies a thorn-rooted herb. The surviving cuneiform text describes its roots as sharp and dangerous, growing only where the pressure is absolute. But the promise is precise. The tablet does not offer proven immortality, the permanent escape from the human condition. Instead, it presents renewed youth. It is a medicine that turns back old age, restoring the raw strength of youth to a decaying body. For Gilgamesh, the desperate wanderer, the quest suddenly has a visible objective. Yet the barrier is insurmountable for a mortal. The dark waters of the Gulf are a hostile environment where no human can survive, a silent wall designed to keep humanity in its fragile state. Utnapishtim, who once stood as a passive witness to the Great Deluge, now shifts to become a guide. He will not retrieve the herb, he only points the way. The choice to descend belongs to the king alone. Gilgamesh, who has wept over a cold corpse and fled his own palace in terror, must now decide if he is willing to plunge into the suffocating dark, chasing the faint promise of a second youth hidden beneath the tide. The instructions preserved on Tablet 11 are stark and highly practical. Utnapishtim tells the king to bind heavy stones to his feet. There is no magic spell, no divine intervention. Gilgamesh must use physical force to breach the boundary of the underworld. He ties the stones. The surviving cuneiform text describes the king sliding down through an opening in the hull of his boat, plunging straight into the dark ocean. He does not merely look into the water or reach from the safety of the deck. He descends directly into the abyss, pulled down by the weight of the rocks into a realm where humans cannot breathe. According to the tablets, the plant grows on the seabed. Its thorns are sharp, designed to defend its secret. Yet Gilgamesh does not hesitate. In the suffocating dark, under immense pressure, the king reaches out and seizes the stem. His hands bleed, but he holds on. The impossible briefly becomes possible. A mortal has claimed the medicine of youth. Immediately, Gilgamesh cuts the heavy stones from his feet. The water releases him, and he rises back to the surface, clutching the thorny green stalk in his hand. This precise sequence of events is not a modern dramatic invention. Assyriologists reconstructed these specific lines by comparing multiple damaged clay fragments, including the standard Nineveh texts and the parallel Sippar tablets. Where one manuscript is broken, another preserves the verbs of action, binding the stones, plunging through the hatch, grasping the burning thorns, and cutting the weights. Every step of this high-stakes dive is grounded in physical reality, recorded on clay more than 2,000 years ago. The dark waters of the abyss part. The king of Uruk breathes the open air once more, his hand bloodied but victorious, clutching the thorny green stem. He has done what no mortal was ever meant to do. He holds the cure for old age. Yet the surviving cuneiform lines of Tablet 11 reveal an unexpected choice. Gilgamesh does not immediately eat the plant. He does not rush to consume the medicine of youth to save himself. Instead, he remains a king, his mind still tethered to the city he abandoned. The ancient clay text preserves his direct words to the ferryman, Ur-Shanabi. Gilgamesh declares that he will carry the plant back to the massive clay brick walls of Uruk. There, within the gates of his kingdom, he will test its power. The elders of Uruk, the very men who watched him rule and watched him weep, will be the first to receive its grace. He plans to feed the sharp leaves to an old man and watch his youth return. For this ruler, the miracle must have a witness. The transformation must be public, verified, and absolute. The elders matter because they represent the ultimate trial of the plant's power, and Uruk is the only place where this divine promise can be made real. The long journey home begins. Along the road, the travelers stop to rest beside a cool, quiet spring of water. The king, exhausted by his trials, sets the precious plant down on the damp earth at the water's edge and steps into the pool to bathe. In this quiet space, the triumph feels complete. The king has conquered the dark. the cure for decay lies resting on the shore. The water of the spring is cool and still. While Gilgamesh bathes, washing away the heavy grime of his wanderings, the thorny plant lies unguarded on the damp earth. It is a moment of complete passivity. The surviving cuneiform characters on Tablet 11 do not attribute what happens next to divine intervention or the grand designs of the gods. The catastrophe is entirely physical. A serpent slips through the grass. The ancient clay text states that the creature is drawn simply by the sweet, attractive scent of the herb. There is no grand struggle. There is no heroic battle. The text appears to describe the snake sliding silently toward the pool, catching the aroma and snatching the plant from the riverbank. In a single quiet motion, the hard-won medicine of youth is stolen. As the serpent retreats into the deep undergrowth, the clay tablets record a transformation. The snake sloughs off its old, weathered skin. It casts away its decay, leaving behind a dry husk as it disappears into the shadows, fully renewed. Gilgamesh steps out of the water to find only empty earth. The brief victory that cost him his flesh, his royal crown, and his tears is undone in a fraction of a second. The king of 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐄 is left staring at the grass, powerless against a silent thief. On the damp earth lies a discarded, paper-thin husk. The surviving cuneiform text of Tablet 11 records that as the serpent slid away into the undergrowth, it shed its old, weathered skin. It left behind its decay, instantly restored. This physical act of sloughing has led to generations of analysis. Scholars have interpreted this moment as an ancient etiological myth, a story designed to explain a fundamental mystery of the natural world. It answers a bitter question. Why do snakes cast away their age while humans must grow old and die? For the ancient Mesopotamians, the sight of a snake leaving its dry shell behind may have served as a powerful visual of cyclical renewal. Yet translators and historians caution against treating any single symbolic meaning as settled fact. The cuneiform tablets themselves do not offer an explicit theological lecture. They simply present the stark contrast. The serpent, a silent creature of the grass, receives the gift of youth without effort, without tears, and without a descent into the ocean depths. Gilgamesh, who breached the gates of the sun and bled beneath the primeval sea, is left with nothing but his own aging flesh. He is defined not by what he conquered, but by what he lost. The quest to overcome the grave has ended in a quiet, devastating failure, leaving a mortal king to contemplate the limits of his own existence. For historians and Assyriologists, this sudden loss is not a mere accident of the road, but the entire purpose of the narrative. Translation experts suggest the episode functions as an ancient explanation for mortality itself, a narrative answer to why humanity must decay while the serpent casts off its age. In Mesopotamian thought, the snake's shed skin is read as a symbolic motif of renewal, a stark contrast to the bounded temporary nature of human existence. By denying Gilgamesh an easy victory, the epic delivers a realistic truth. The king who once sought to conquer the grave returns to 𝐒𝐒𝐄 not with a physical cure, but with a clear understanding of the limits of human control. He becomes the figure who has learned the boundaries of mortal life, finding that wisdom is shaped not by what he conquered, but by what he had to let go. The physical endurance of baked clay is the only reason this story exists. The narrative of the king's search survived because the tablets survived. Today, the scattered pieces of Tablet 11 are preserved in the British Museum, the Penn Museum, the Yale Babylonian Collection, and the Louvre. Many of these fragments came to light during 19th century excavations at Nineveh, where archaeologists recovered thousands of shattered texts from the ruined library of Ashurbanipal. On December 3, 1872, a self-taught engraver named George Smith announced he had deciphered the flood portion of the text, revealing Gilgamesh's lost world to modern eyes. By comparing these Nineveh fragments with later discoveries, translators like Andrew George reconstructed the standard Babylonian version we read today. The plant of youth was lost to a serpent in a quiet pool, but the memory of the king's quest survived the rise and fall of empires. The ancient walls of Uruk still stand in the desert, silent monuments to a ruler who failed to defeat death, but whose story conquered time. Gilgamesh returned to Uruk empty-handed, yet he achieved a different kind of immortality. Today, those clay tablets still speak. 4,000 years later, humanity is still chasing the very same cure, desperately searching the abyss to defeat time. The plant is gone, but the quest remains. What do you think of his legacy? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more untold history.